Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin and today is the start of a new reading vlog. I was reading a lot of contemporary to start off January, and that's the exact opposite of what I wanted to do for my 2021 goals. I went through a rabbit hole of a ton of mafia romances and other contemporary romances. So currently today is January 10th, Sunday. And I'm like, I need to get on the historical romance train. Even though I know that there's going to be a readathon this coming week, I still need to not make an excuse and start reading some more historical romances. I saw that I had an arc of The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George. I try to be productive this weekend and get through all of my January arcs, not letting it wait till the last minute like I always do. So I read, I'm already blanking, this is ridiculous, The X Talk, which I really liked, and I'll talk about that one in my weekly wrap-ups on Sunday. But my other January arc is perfect. It's The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George. I've never read Harper St. George before at all, and when I was sent this art copy, I immediately accepted it because of the cover. Even though the dress looks pretty modern for historical romance, the gold foil just like, I love it, and I had to have it. So since Harper St. George is a new to me historical romance author, I decided that I would get 2 more new to me historical romance authors and read them for a quick little reading vlog before the readathon starts this weekend. In addition to The Heiress Gets a Duke, I'll be reading Gentle Rogue by Joanna Lindsay. I have not read Joanna Lindsay at all, even though I own a lot of her books. So I thought, let's start with this one with the recovered copy. It's very floppy and I really just want to read it. And then also Jennifer has been telling me that she's been loving the Donner Fletcher books that she's been reading. She's read the Sinclair Brothers, and I actually have book 3 of the Sinclair Brothers. It's actually in my little cup of historical romance picks that I do monthly, my random picks. Instead of starting with the Sinclair Brothers, because I think I want to get the paperbacks to get my whole collection, I'm gonna get those. But she was telling me about Bound to a Warrior, and the premise sounded so good that I was like, okay, I have to read this sooner rather than later. So that's what I'm gonna read. It's the first book in the Warrior King series. And yeah, I think I can get through those before we start the historical romance readathon. At least I'm hoping I can, because tomorrow is the start of my spring semester, and we'll see how heavy the workload is in the beginning of January. So I just started The Heiress Gets a Duke, and I'm already really loving the heroine. She's really, really cool. This is a Gilded Age historical romance, but it's not set in New York. They're actually in England. The heroine, August, is very involved with her father's business. He is like a member of like the Nouveau Riche crowd in New York. He's made his money in railroads. I think it was maybe his grandfather that started the company, or maybe it's her grandfather. But yeah, they're new money. And he's looking to expand his contacts, so they go to London. And he has 2 eligible daughters. But August is actually present in like the day-to-day goings-on of Crenshaw Ironworks. She is very good with numbers. She sits in on meetings with her father. Like, she thinks about all this, about how she's very much integral to the way that her father operates, and I love that she has that bond with her father. I think it's really sweet. But the first chapter, she actually attends one of her good friend's wedding. This friend's family is also part of the Nouveau Riche crowd of Americans that are coming over to England. There's tons of high-ranking nobles who just don't have any money. None of their estates are profitable anymore, and they need that influx of cash, and so the American heiresses look very attractive to marry. So her friend got snapped up by a duke, and he's much older than she is. She's not a love match. She's basically being forced to marry, but her family is ecstatic because they get to have all the Duke's connections. They get to be attached to this very noble family whose bloodlines go back for like generations. And it's basically a pretty shallow process. August is very hurt about the situation. She feels for her friend, and she thinks the way that daughters are pawned off in this way is just ridiculous, and she does not want this to happen to her. And she's feeling very lucky that she and her sisters have very loving parents and they wouldn't force them into a marriage. So she's talking with her little sister, and Violet says, you know, are we sure? Are we sure that this won't happen to us? Then we fast forward like a couple weeks, and her friend has experienced this drastic change. It's like reality has like slapped her friend in the face. Her husband had a very frank conversation with her saying that he was not going to give up his mistresses, but she was free to form outside attachments outside of the marriage, but not until she gives him 2 sons. So she's feeling extremely jaded about the situation, and she wants August to come with her to come do something reckless and fun. And she basically escapes her house and drags August along with her to this underground fighting ring. So they end up by watching a match of bare knuckle boxing. And it's very interesting because August stands up on the platform and she's watching the 2 fighters come to the ring. And the first one, she's like, wow, he like looks younger than she thought, and he looks actually like really handsome. And whenever he's scanning the crowd, of course, his eyes come back to her, and they have like a moment where like their eyes are like connected. And since we know that this title is The Heiress Gets a Duke, and there is this like instant connection between these two, I'm wondering, this has to be the Duke, right? This has to be the Duke. And I'm wondering if he's actually boxing because he really is low on funds, and this is a way for him to get some money. But I'm not very far into this book. I'm really enjoying it so far. I really like the setup, and I have very high hopes for this. I'll update you guys later whenever I get further into it. I don't even know what the hero's name is. So as soon as I don't know if this is 2 POV or 1 POV, but again, I'll let you guys know whenever I get further in. I plan on reading all day. It's pretty like overcast and stuff, and relaxing, kind of preparing for school tomorrow. And yep, hopefully I'll have some more information for you guys tonight. All right guys, reading update. Even though I feel like I'm shiny, I just did my moisturizer on my face, so don't mind that. And I also feel like this ring light is making my hair look like really golden. I don't know if it's just because I went heavier on highlights this time, but fun fact, I actually have been going gray since I was 18. Like, I started getting gray hairs whenever I was 18, so it's been 10 years, and I'm at the point where it's necessary for me to color my hair. And I always find it funny when I read a romance where somebody's in their mid-30s and freaking out about a gray hair. Like, I get it. I freaked out whenever I was 18 and I was like, oh my god, a gray hair. But it was just like, I've been dealing with it for a decade now, and you're just 30 and finding your first one. So in your blonde, like, I have dark hair and I have to lighten my hair on purpose so that the gray hair is not noticeable. I wish I could go gracefully gray, but I don't want to right now. Maybe one day, but no. Anyway, now that we're done with that tangent, I have an update for you guys for The Heiress Gets a Duke. I'm loving it so far. It's really good. And I'm like shocked that I haven't really heard anything about Harper St. George before. But this whole setup, this whole premise, and the characters just are really, really, really compelling. I love them as a couple. I love Evan, the Duke of Rothschild, who is our hero. He is in a difficult position where all of his estates are doing very badly, and he's tried to keep up and reverse the effects that his father had on the estate and the draining of their coffers, but everything that he does is just not enough. And he really has to start looking toward the future because he's responsible for his mother, and he has 2 younger sisters who are about to be of age to be able to make their debut in society. And so he really needs the funds to update all of his estates, to be able to take care of his tenant farmers, and also to support his young sisters. He has a solicitor. His old one ran away, so I'm assuming he was like embezzling money, and I think that'll come into play later, but they really only mention it briefly. And the solicitor was like, if you don't take a wife, if there's not an announcement very soon, then everybody who you owe money to is gonna call in all of your debts at the same time, and then you'll be bankrupt. So reluctantly, Evan agrees, and his mother puts out a suggestion that one of her friends is like, oh, well, Miss Crenshaw is an eligible young lady, and they're for money. We find out that it's actually August's younger sister, Violet, who is being suggested for Evan, Duke of Rothschild, and he thinks that it's the older Miss Crenshaw, the one, well, he doesn't know who's older or younger, but he thinks the girl that he saw at the bare knuckle boxing match is the one who's being suggested for his wife. They had a connection, they had a little kiss during the boxing ring. I really liked the level of steam that was already in this book. There's lots of physical chemistry that happens right off the bat. I wouldn't say that it's like overly steamy, especially for a historical romance. But these two keep on running into each other. I really love their first meeting in like a social setting. He's being introduced, and once he realizes that it's Violet Crenshaw that his mother has in mind for him, he's like, oh no, where's August? And August knows that his face looks familiar. The problem is when he does his matches, his boxing matches, he lets his stubble grow out, and he also uses this pomade that turns his hair darker. And I mean, it's very different seeing somebody who's like practically naked and then like all sleek and calm, collected, cool in a tux for dinner, being addressed as a duke. So it's kind of hard to reconcile those two images. So I can totally get it. But what I really love is that it does not take her long to figure it out, and she does it completely on her own. She's just putting two and two together, and I really appreciate the way that Harper St. George wrote August's character, because she really feels so sharp and observant, and I just really love her character. Another thing that I totally appreciate is the directness that these two characters talk to each other with. They are just so down to the point. There's no demurring, there's no trying to hide motivations of any kind. August directly approaches Evan saying like, you can't marry my sister. She is expecting to marry somebody from home, and he's young, so our father doesn't approve of the match, but this is where her heart lies, and I'm not going to let you force her into a marriage of convenience just because you need funds. It's pretty obvious to us as the reader that Evan is just like all about August, and August is the one that's set in his sight, but she's not getting it quite yet. But again, it does not take her long to realize once they see each other again at the ball. One of her friends kind of clues her in. He never dances with anybody, and he just danced with you and not Violet. Like, she thinks that she is protecting her younger sister from this unwanted suitor who just wants to marry her for money, and it's her. But the problem is they have a physical connection, and she is hard pressed to fight that because she really loves it. She actually asked for it. She wants to kiss him. She doesn't mind being alone in a room with him, and she's very curious and wants to explore that side of her sexuality, something that she's never done before. And I really like that for her character. She's just not this wilting wallflower who... There's nothing wrong with being inexperienced, but she's inexperienced but curious at the same time. And I like that balance for her. I really love that balance for her. And also, Evan admires everything that society does not like her for. They call her a blue stocking. They don't understand why she wants to work. They think it's crass the way she behaves. Even though she's perfectly respectable whenever she goes to all these functions, it's the fact that she wants to be involved in her father's business that everyone just turns their nose up at. August overhears these women who are just tearing them to shreds, and it's because August and Violet are both beautiful and they both have money, something which the ton in England is severely lacking in during this time. So everyone's pretty intimidated by these two girls who are entering into the scene, and there's already been a ton of American heiresses who have been married off to the peerage. So there's a bunch of jealousy going on, but I wouldn't say that it's overly prominent. The story is definitely focused on Evan and August, and Evan is trying to work out a way that he can convince August to want to be with him because he doesn't want to trap her in a marriage. He actually has, so I'm going to put a spoiler warning because I feel like I'm getting like deep into the book at this point, and I don't want to spoil specific scenes for anybody who does not want to be spoiled. And if you want to wait until this book comes out and then come back and come watch this and see what I have to say about a few scenes that I've read. I'm not quite done with the book almost, but anyway, you can just like mark this video and come back and revisit it later after it comes out on the 26th, I believe. So there's a scene where Evan and August are alone in the library, and she actually asks him like, well, can you kiss me? Because she, in her mind, is like, I'm never going to have this opportunity again. There's some sort of connection between us, so I'd rather explore it than be made wanting. They get very caught up in all of these kisses, and you know, her bodice is being unlaced, and his friend thinks he's doing Evan a favor by trying to bust them in the act so that she's basically trapped in a marriage. But the beautiful thing about it is that Evan knows that if he betrays her trust like this, like he knows he can do it, and he knows that this is an easy way to get what he wants, but he decides to go block the door so that they can't get into the library. His friends on the other side and like, man, this door is just not budging and the lock must be broken or something. He finally gets the hint and he leaves, But Evan had an opportunity to get exactly what he wanted despite what August wished, because he knows that she does not want to marry. She's stated it quite plainly that she's very happy with her lot in life and she wants to work with her father for many years to come. She's not ready to settle down. She does want a family. She does want to get married, but on her own terms. And he knows that if she forces her, that it's not going to be a good basis for their marriage. And that's what I love about Evan as a hero. And I think it's just so beautifully written. I love these two characters together. I'm hoping it wraps up very nicely because it'll just be the cherry on top to a really beautiful love story. I will finish this book tonight and then tomorrow I'll move on to my next romance. Okay, so I finished The Heiress Gets Duke and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give this book 4.5 stars and I'll give you a reason why I didn't rate it a complete 5-star, which it could have totally been. Ollie's just like moving around in the bed, sorry. But the book is definitely great and I would recommend it to anybody who's interested in historical romance and Gilded Age historical romance. I'm just kind of delving in. The first historical romance in the Gilded Age that I've ever read was by Joanna Shoup, so I'm fairly new to this time period in romance and I'm really enjoying it. Evan is so swooning. He's so swoony. I love the way that he appreciates August's character. And he truly does. He's not just playing lip service because he is physically attracted to her and he just wants to marry her and have her money. Of course he wants to have money to be able to support his family, but I also appreciate that he doesn't immediately go into like the coercion route. He's not putting on this big front and showing her a side of him that's like not truthful or anything. He's laying it all out in the line for her. And I love that. And August is fighting so hard because her biggest conflict is that she just can't believe that her parents would weigh her wishes to stay on with the family business because she does not want to leave Crenshaw Iron. The fact that being engaged and married to a duke would elevate their status in society, in English society. It definitely is this sad situation that she is now opening her eyes up to. She's being forced to recognize some hard truths and I feel so sorry for her. I really love her conflict. I really love the way that she deals with it as a character, even though she's frustrating me because I know that her and Evan are such a great match. Like, this is the perfect match. There's no other person that she could possibly be with that would understand her better and appreciate her for exactly who she is. And it's hard for her to reconcile that here's this duke who is obviously in need of an heiress with the same man who's professing that he wants her for more than that. I'd be skeptical too. I'd be like, okay, you can say you love me, you can say that you want me for more, that it's deeper, that it's more meaningful than just you're an heiress that I truly need. I would definitely be distrustful that his feelings were real, but of course we know that they're real because we're privy to Evan's thoughts and we know what he's thinking and we know how much he admires August. And I just, oh my God, it's so good. I just love it so much. I do wish that there was an epilogue, and I'm not sure if there's going to be an epilogue that's added since I do have an arc. But the copy that I have does not have an epilogue, and I think that this story could have used one. And I'll talk about what I would have loved to see in an epilogue. I'm going to start talking about spoilers now, so here's another little spoiler warning. Something that didn't feel quite right to me when I was reading was the sudden change in character of her father. And it wasn't that his character changed, it was that August didn't realize that how ruthless her father was. And it was almost like it was written in a way that August and her father had this very unusual relationship where he appreciated her and really didn't treat her any differently just because she was a girl. He knew that she was very good with numbers and gave her a position in his company, and a very respected position. She sat in on meetings and she was allowed to voice her opinions to these investors. There is a scene where some of the nobles come in and they want to approach her father for a deal for railroads in India. He's very interested in it and she's voicing her concerns and stipulations for the deal, and her father does not even try to stop her, doesn't even try to apologize for his daughter speaking up in this meeting. He just lets her do it. It's because there's this whole narrative built on her father really respecting her as a person, not just a woman, and as somebody who's capable of higher thinking and just as capable as his son, who is back in New York and running the business. My problem is that suddenly, when it seems that his business deal with these nobles who are very much expecting that an engagement is going to be announced between August and Evan, Duke of Rothschild, that's the reason why they approached her father. And so suddenly he almost does this character turn where he is very much forcing August's hand and forcing her to marry Evan because he wants this business deal to go through. And suddenly he's saying, your position in the company was always going to be temporary. You were never going to stay here. You're a woman. Your place is with a family. You can't take away time from your husband and your family to do work. Like, that's men's work. And it just felt like such a strange decision, and it didn't even feel like the same person because there was so little respect in the way that her father regarded her once this thing came to be known. It was just so villainous the way that her father was acting, and it felt completely out of character for him to go that far. Like, he wasn't even recognizing her feelings about it at all. He was just like, well, I know best, basically. He didn't even regret that he was doing something very mercenary and hurting somebody who loved him so much, his daughter. He didn't even have like this twinge of guilt, being like, he knows that he's acting out of greed and he feels ashamed of himself. There was none of that, and it just, I don't know. It was just so weird because I was like, oh, what a wonderful father-daughter relationship. And then by the end of it, it's like, well, now all of her blinders are lifted from her father in regards to her father. And it's just a very sad situation. And of course, there's Evan, who's fighting against it, being like, I never forced your father's hand. I never said that we needed to announce a betrothal. I was willing to wait. And also, I never said that you need to stop working. Like, of course, there will be other responsibilities that you'll have to be involved in because you'll be the Duchess, but Evan never expected her to not be involved with the family business now that they were talking about opening an office in London. He expected her to definitely be involved in the office in London, which brings me to my point about the lack of an epilogue feeling very kind of like a missed opportunity. There's lots of things that start happening towards the end. I really love how August makes her own negotiations for the marriage when she realized she's basically trapped. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm talking to Evan one-on-one to make sure that I get what I want out of this marriage now that I know that there's no way out of it. And she does have feelings for him. She does love him. That was a really beautiful scene where she just like gives herself completely to Evan and makes the best of a bad situation with her father. Evan conveniently finds out once they find his old solicitor that his brother, had some stocks in this Montana land that's prospering, and now he has no need for August's money, her dowry. He has no need for it anymore, which he releases August from the betrothal, thinking that I don't want to force her into a marriage and I want to give her freedom, but like I want her to stay. And she thinks, oh, he's rejecting me now that he has money, so all he wanted me for was the money. So that was like the third act conflict. That fine. I don't mind him having a windfall coming into that money, but the whole misunderstanding was a little bit, it could have just not been done. They could have just talked and he'd be like, look, I have this money, but like I still want you for my wife, but it's up to you. I'm not going to force you into this, but since I do have money, then I don't need an heiress, but I still want you, like August, the woman. I would have much preferred we just avoid the whole misunderstanding where she thinks that he doesn't want her and he thinks that she's relieved to be released from this betrothal. Anyway, I think that an epilogue with Evan really encouraging her to get involved with the London office, and even though her father's still the head of the company, her brother has a lot of say-so in the company, and he even comes to London because he is ready to defend his sister against their father's machinations. And I could totally see the brother making sure that she still has a place in the company in London. I would have just loved to see August settled in a marriage, being in love, handling her duties as a duchess, while also still retaining a place in her father's company and not having to compromise on that. I just really would have loved to see her and see Evan being like the really supportive husband, and them just kind of like thumbing their nose at society, who all of them would think it's very much beneath her. And of course, an American's still gonna work. Like, how gauche and how just like gross. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just think it was a missed opportunity for an epilogue, but that's just me. So that's why I gave it 4.5 stars, because of the third act conflict that I think could have been smoothed over within the same scene without the additional like 10 or 15 pages or so for them to like come to their senses and apologize and whatever, grand gesturing. There's more than enough conflict within the book to sustain it as a story without that third act conflict. But I'm so glad that I read this book by Harper St. George. I'm definitely going to be putting her future books on my TBR list. This is the start of a new series. It's the Gilded Age Heiresses, or the Gilded Heiresses series. What is this series called? It's the Gilded Age Heiresses. So I was correct. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars out of 5. So next on the agenda, tomorrow is Monday, and I'm going to be listening to Magic Triumphs through audio while I work. Hopefully I'll be able to finish that, so by the afternoon I can start reading Bound to a Warrior by Donna Fletcher. That'll be my next read, and hopefully it'll be a quick and light romance that I can read tomorrow afternoon and evening. That way on Tuesday I'm free to read both The Roommate and Blood Heir, which comes out. So I will be taking a break from recording with this footage for this vlog, because I can't wait to read Roommate and Blood Heir. I can't put that off. So I will be taking a pause, and hopefully I can read those quickly, but I'm not gonna like force myself to binge them and miss the experience of these, some of my most anticipated 2021 reads. I can't believe they come out on the same day. I don't even know which one I'm gonna read first. I'm kind of leaning more towards reading The Roommate first, because I don't have to invest as much brain power to interpret things. Like Blood Heir, there's going to be a lot going on. I'm so glad I decided to listen to Kate Daniels, the last Kate Daniels Magic Triumphs, because there's a lot of characters and I know that I'm forgetting some, so I definitely need the refresher before I go into Blood Heir, and it's very exciting. I think I'm gonna vlog that actually. Yeah, probably so. So anyway, I'll still be vlogging, just not for this one in particular. All right guys, I am tired, so I will catch up with you guys tomorrow afternoon once I start the next book. So I just finished filming a haul video, and I decided, since I'm set up and the lighting's like not great, that I was going to update you guys on Bound to a Warrior. I'm about halfway through at this point, and I really like the concept of these two being chained for basically the majority of the novel. They're still chained together by the halfway point, and I'm really enjoying some of the more mysterious aspects of this book. So we meet both the hero and the heroine, Mercy and Duncan, and they're already chained. They're captured by soldiers, and they don't tell you exactly what's happened. So it's very like action-packed right at the beginning, which I really like it, because it's like really brings you into the story. And there's a very interesting scene that happens right in the beginning that Jen was telling me about, and it's the whole reason why I decided to read this book. The soldiers are sort of taunting Duncan and Mercy, saying like, hey, you're gonna die anyway, so your choice whether or not you wanna like walk off this really steep cliff and into the ocean, or we kill you first and then just dump your body in the ocean. Either way, you're gonna die. They make the decision that they could possibly survive this fall. So she gives him like signals with her eyes, being like, I'm willing to take this risk if you are. They both jump in, and he doesn't find out until they're both in the water and she's really struggling that she can't even swim. So she made this decision knowing that she was not a good swimmer, that she couldn't even swim at all, and she would need to depend on him. And he is so impressed by the amount of trust she showed to a stranger. Then we find out that Duncan is wanted because he matches the description to this sort of prophecy. And this is a medieval Scottish romance. So there's this prophecy going around that the rightful king, this is the time where a rightful king is going to show up to take the throne of Scotland. And so he matches like the description of something, which I just got to a part where Mercy recites the whole prophecy, and I'm still trying to piece together exactly how Duncan himself fits into this prophecy, because I don't know if it's a red herring. I don't know if he is the true heir to the Scottish throne, or if it's somebody else, maybe one of his brothers that he's always talking about, that they could possibly also fit the description, but something's definitely going down. Mercy also has a bit of a mystery about her past. She thinks a lot about her mother and about the things that she's learned from her mother. One of them is to never trust in love, that love is dangerous, and if you trust somebody who says that they love you, then you might end up by losing everything. And so she's very cautious about the feelings that she's starting to develop for Duncan. This is a really soft and sweet romance. Duncan is such a gentleman throughout this whole ordeal. They're definitely roughing it because they're on foot, they're traveling through back roads, they're trying to get to his land, the McAlpin land, and so, or McAlpine land, I don't know. I can't pronounce things sometimes. But they have to do everything in front of each other, like go to the bathroom, bathe, and he's being very respectful of her, but at the same time he's very attracted to her, and so is she. But I definitely wouldn't classify Mercy as like delicate. She just kind of like does what she has to do, and that whole scene where she just decides like my best chance of survival is jumping off this cliff even though I cannot swim, that defines her personality. She will just do what needs to be done, even if it's scary, even if there's a possibility for injury, and I really like that in a heroine, and I'm really intrigued. I need to know more about her background, but they're meeting like a couple people along the way. They just met like an interesting healer person, which I thought that was really cool. One of the things that I did notice, and it's just because it's been kind of slower paced since we've been on the road, and it's just kind of been repetitive scenes where they're traveling and they're stopping for a night in, you know, terrible weather conditions or whatever, and they're just kind of like making do with what they have. So sometimes when this happens, I kind of fixate on stuff that could be considered like anachronistic. And there are a couple phrases that are used, and this happens a lot in historical romance anyway. I know that someone posted in a Facebook group the other day saying there's a lot of Americanisms in British Regency romances. It's supposed to be set in, you know, the UK, but there's a lot of American phrases that are used in this that people from England would not be using. So anyway, there's just a couple of those like things like towels, and this is medieval Scotland. You wouldn't refer to that as a towel. But anyway, I still enjoy the story. This is my first Donna Fletcher book, and I already said that I have one of the Sinclair books. But anyway, I'm just really intrigued, and I'm assuming that this series is going to be about like Duncan, and then he mentions like these brothers, and they're not his biological brothers. He was taken in when he was a child by this family, and so he just considers these men to be his brothers. They grew up together. So I'm really intrigued. We haven't yet met them, and I'm interested in some more permanent characters being introduced, because so far we've met people on the road, but they're not like permanent characters. They're just like people that have offered them assistance, and nobody has had the right tools yet to unchain them from each other, which is convenient, but I like it. And yeah, so I'm just really interested once we get to Duncan's clan lands, or whatever you call them, seeing these people who might have a role in like the next books and the next books, and also just like for these mystery pieces of the romance of the plot to be revealed, because there's not a lot I can really tell you without spoiling anything, so I'm being very vague about that. But I'm curious too. I'm like, what are you hiding? Because there's a reason why Mercy was captured. There's a reason why she was chained to Duncan, and I'm wondering why. I kind of forgot about it because it was so exciting in the beginning. I'm like, well, why would she be captured by soldiers anyway? But apparently that's something that's going to be answered later, so I really need to read this. I'm hoping to finish this within a couple of hours, because there's a couple other books that I want to squeeze in before the historical romance readathon kicks off. And yeah, I'm definitely pushing myself, but I wouldn't be me if I didn't set crazy goals and try to achieve them, even though I'm asking a lot of myself sometimes, but that's how I like to roll. Anyway, I'll update you guys on my final verdict for Bound to a Warrior. So I have some updates for you guys. I finished Bound to a Warrior last night, and I really liked it because it was very sweet and low angst. It was like very low angst. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that, and even though that there's kind of like an element of danger, it was a story that was mostly focused on them falling in love on their journey to Duncan's homeland. And what I really appreciated about this, and it's not a spoiler, it's kind of just letting you know how the whole series is going to be laid out, We don't know which of the brothers, and they're actually all not related at all. We don't know which of the brothers is actually the true king. So the identity is secret, and so I'm assuming we won't find that out until the end of the series. So we don't know if Duncan's the king, and I don't know if they know exactly, because there's like a lot of like kind of mysterious clues. I don't even know if we have enough information to be able to figure this out in the first book, but I'm intrigued. I want to know who's going to be the king. And yeah, it was just a really sweet romance, and I liked it. It was like a nice change of pace. Now, my original plan was to read Blood Air next because it just released yesterday. I have the Kindle ebook, and I also got the beautiful paperback copy, and this is like the trade size, and I really like this size. She has her Innkeeper Chronicles in this size, and I just really love it. It's just so beautiful. It's so shiny. I love her. Julie looks so good, but her name's Aurelia in here. I decided to hold off because I really want this vlog to go out on Friday. So what I'm gonna do is listen to the audio of Gentle Rogue. I forgot that I actually had that on my library app, which is like phenomenal. If you don't have Libby, you need to check it out. And I forgot that I checked out the audio, so I'm just gonna listen to Gentle Rogue today. I just started, I'm a couple chapters in, so I'm really excited about that, and I'll update you guys once I get like a handle on the story. I know that it's the third book in like the Mallory series. Okay, it doesn't say, it just says a Mallory novel, but I'm pretty sure that this is the third book in the Mallory novel. But I'm gonna listen to this book on audio, and then after I work, I might switch back to this paperback copy because I really love it. It's floppy. Honestly, in love with the new size. So that is my plan. Oh, and I also want to show you guys, I got these late last night. Got my order from Fugly Barbie, and I ordered the romance novel shirt, and it's so cute. Look how beautiful the red flowing locks. There's like so many cover models with red hair in historical romance, and I love it. And look how cute and adorable. Okay, and what does it say? If there isn't a burly Scottish laird ripping the bodice of his new bride on the cover, is it even a romance novel? And yeah, I love it. And I also got the Pride and Prejudice. This is like kind of like a retro design, but I got the Pride and Prejudice retro. I love it. I love you most ardently. 2005 Pride and Prejudice all the way. And I have more coming from Fugly Barbie. I just did 2 separate orders because I ordered this literally the day before she dropped her designs for all of the different types of historical romance, and I'm really excited to get those in, so I cannot wait. I also ordered a mug, so I am holding off on this because I want to do like a separate vlog. I want to talk about where the Kate Daniels series left off in Magic Triumphs and my predictions for Blood Air. I've only read like 2 chapters in this so far, so I just decided to wait because I want to do like another vlog of me reading this, just this book. So, because I've been waiting for it for so long, and I'm really excited for it. I will update you guys on Gentle Rogue. This is my first Joanna Lindsay, and I hope it's phenomenal. I've heard a lot about the Mallory family, so. Okay guys, I have an update for Gentle Rogue. I've been listening to this audiobook all day, and it's kind of sad to say that I'm only 107 pages in. So literally I had all day, and I kept pausing the audiobook, and so I only got this far in 107 pages. I should have been able to finish this audiobook today because I was listening at a speed that would have allowed me to finish this book within 5 hours and 30 minutes. That's not even my full work day, and I kept pausing and procrastinating and watching YouTube videos instead, which I need to catch up with in anyway. So I guess that was a plus side of this whole situation, but I'm just really not enjoying the characters or the story. I think that it took a long time to get it to a point where I might be interested in the story, but for me, chapter 13 and 100 pages into a book, it seems like a little long to get into the story. I just am not invested in the characters. Georgie as a heroine is a little bit annoying to me, and I think she's just supposed to be quirky and have like gumption because she's, you know, take charge heroine, but she just kind of annoys me, and it's the writing as well that's just not working with me. And the person that I think could save this book for me would be James Mallory, but we haven't really gotten into his head, his point of view, that much, that often. So the story starts off with Georgie, who is an American, and she travels to England to go find her fiance who's been fighting in the war. I'm assuming it's the War of 1812 because I think this book is set in 1818. But 1818 London. So she goes to London to go find her fiance who is English by birth, and she knew that the ship that he was on, her fiance was on, had been shipwrecked, but that no lives were lost. And so she goes to London to go seek her fiance to see what's the holdup. Why have you not come back for me to marry me? I've been waiting for you for 6 years. And then she discovers that he basically had moved on with his life, and she's just very like upset, and she just makes some decisions which I can understand that are spur of the moment, but it doesn't endear her to me at all. And I feel like this is pretty indicative of her character as a whole. She's what I like to call a contrary heroine. She likes to do the opposite of what she's told to do because she just does not want to be told what to do. But sometimes this backfires on her, and it's not in her best interest. And I don't like that. I like thinking about things, making smart decisions, and if you want to get the upper hand, sometimes you have to go with the flow and not just like cut off your nose to spite your face, basically. Georgie is also pretending to be a boy because she needs safe passage back to America, and she has no choice but to be on the ship who is captained by an English captain, and she does not like Englishmen at all. Like, she is so biased against them, which I understand to an extent, but she just hates all Englishmen. And which is hilarious because her fiance was an Englishman, but it's just, anyway. Like I said, contrary heroine. I like the whole like trope of a woman disguised as a man so that she can get shit done and be safe. I just read Splendor by Brenda, Joyce, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The heroine was also pretending to be a boy, and the hero knew, just like in Gentle Rogue, the hero knows, but is kind of just seeing what she's going to do. Like, what is your agenda? Are you going to trip up and admit that you're a girl? And I just want to know, how far are you going to take this ruse? And I really enjoy that. And I like that James already knows that she is a girl and recognizes her because they met once before, right whenever she landed in London. But yeah, the story so far, the plot, there isn't much. There isn't much of a plot. I'm struggling to find like a purpose besides the passage and the fact that they're now on a ship together and she can't escape him. And he just kind of wants to toy around with her and see how he can make her squirm because Georgie is acting as like his attendant on the ship, so she's in very close proximity to him. But even that is not enough. Like, from what I've read so far, from what I've listened to so far, even that has not been written in a way that has captivated me or compelled me to take an interest in the character so far. So it's not looking too good. I am going to read a little bit more, but my time is a little bit precious now since the semester has just started, and I don't want to waste time on this, especially whenever I have another book that I really want to read, Blood Heir. And there's so many other books that I'm about to read for the Historical Romance Readathon that interest me way more than what this is doing. And I don't want in 2020 to be forced to read a book just because this is, I think, the most popular Joanna Lindsay that's out there. It's like the highest rating on Goodreads. And I don't know if it's because of the recovering or it's just always had this high rating. But it's just not doing it for me. It's just not a book that I find fascinating at all. And I don't want to bash it if it's something that you love, but I'm not going to force myself to read it because I'll start hate reading it if I'm not liking it. But I am going to go a little bit further. Let's see. I'm going to give myself to chapter 17. I want an even number. Is that terrible? Chapter 18. I'm going to go to chapter 18. If I still don't find anything interesting about this book, then I'm DNFing, and I'm going to call this vlog quits, and I'll let you know what's happening whenever I get to chapter 18. If I end up by liking it, then I'll just update you and say like, hey, this book is taking a turn for the better and I really love it. I'm gonna finish it, but we'll see. It's just not looking too good right now. So I finished Gentle Rogue last night with the help of audio and reading at the same time. It really pushed me through, but my final verdict is I'd probably give this book a 3-star. It's probably gonna go on as a 3 on Goodreads, but maybe 3.5. it was good. There was a chunk in the middle where the steaminess started like kicking up, and I was like, oh yes, okay, like show me the chemistry between these two characters. But my biggest problem was that I really didn't like the heroine. She's just not my favorite type of heroine. She's like that contrary heroine. If someone tells her to do something, she's going to do the exact opposite just to prove that she can, not because it's like a well thought out plan on her part, like she knows what she's doing. She's just kind of, she felt a little childish. She felt a little bit like rebellious. And then towards the end, there was just like a bunch of drama back and forth, brothers trying to protect her, and it was just like, I don't know. James, I liked him as a character, and I just did not feel the same way about Georgina. And I didn't feel like there was much of a plot besides, like it all revolved around Georgina going to England to go get her fiance, who just like abandoned her. And then she ends up on this pirate ship, pretends to be a boy, and then her and James start this sexual relationship. And then it's just like, oh, well, now that's never gonna work, so I'm with my brothers, and her brothers are like angry on her behalf once they find out about it. And it was just like a lot of back and forth with Gianna's love life, and that's fine, but I mean, it was a pretty decent sized book, and not a lot really happened besides what's gonna happen with, I say Gianna. I'm reading Cora Riley also. I meant Georgina. Georgie. So yeah, it just was not my favorite. And I know that this is like, everyone considers this to be like the best Joanna Lindsay, so it kind of makes me a little bit nervous about the other Joanna Lindsays that I have on my list. I have one for the historical Hellions later on this year. I forgot which month that's in, if it's like March or April, but it kind of makes me a little bit nervous. But sometimes I like the books that are less popular by an author, so I don't know, it might be a good sign. But anyway, it was fine. So that concludes this reading vlog. I'm really glad that I did this because I found some really good authors. I really loved Harper St. George, like top notch. I love her. Donna Fletcher, I'm excited about that series, and also I want to read her Sinclair Brothers series. And then Joanna Lindsay. Now I have finally read a Joanna Lindsay. She's not a new to me author anymore, so that's good. Alright guys, you'll be seeing lots of vlogs from me because I have another vlog coming up about me reading Blood Heir, which is exciting. I'm going to recap Kate Daniels, and then the Historical Romance Readathon is happening this weekend and next week, so I'll be vlogging that as well. So this is really exciting, guys. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure that you subscribe to get notified of any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, life's better with little HEA. Bye guys.